dears, it's Katie, and I'm here today to talk about my top books of 2019. I've got about, I think, like 7 books to talk to you guys about today, so let's just jump right on in. Once again, I'm not doing this in any special order, I'm just kind of going, but I will tell you what my top book of 2019 is, because there is one. So, without further ado, let's jump right on in. So the first book that I want to talk to you guys about today is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read this book back in April and I absolutely loved it. Everyone on this platform pretty much knows what Evelyn Hugo is about, but on the off chance that you don't, it follows the life of this really big movie star named Evelyn Hugo, and she just kind of talks about her life and then also her relationships with her 7 husbands, and we learn a lot of other interesting things about her along the way. It was such an incredible book. It was so well written, it was so atmospheric and so cinematic, and I just absolutely loved Evelyn and all of her relationships, and just the characterizations were unbelievable. I've heard this about Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, but like oftentimes you read them and you're like, how did this person not exist? And Evelyn felt just so incredibly real that it just left me stunned after I finished it. I mean, it was really, really well done. Then the next book that I want to talk to you guys about is The Scorpio Races by Megan Stiefvater. I read this fairly recently and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm actually kind of surprised that it made it on this list, but it totally deserves to be on this list. This is a fantasy slash magical realism slash mythological retelling book about the Kapalishka and this tiny little island that hosts these races every November, and they're called the Scorpio Races. And basically what it is it's these Kapalishka, who are water horses and they eat people, come out and people try to tame them, train with them for a couple of weeks, and then ride them and see who's the best, basically. And we follow our main protagonists, Puck and Sean, and just their differing experiences on this island. Puck is on the lower economics side of things, whereas Sean is seen as kind of a hero, a savior, a celebrity, basically. And it's just kind of about their lives and training for these current races and kind of figuring out what the hell they're doing with their lives. And it was just so well done. I was stunned that I loved it as much as I did. I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, and I am so glad that I liked it as much as I did, because it was a really, really well done book. Now, third, I'm going to talk about The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I read this earlier this year in September. I read this book earlier this year with Vendi, and it was the perfect buddy read book. Like, if you haven't read this book yet and you are planning on reading it, make sure you do it as a buddy read. You'll definitely get more out of it if you talk to people about it rather than if you just read it by yourself. At least that's what I found. I know that I would have had a different experience if I hadn't buddy read it. So definitely one that I would recommend buddy reading. But this book is an epic fantasy that is kind of a standalone. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be other books set in the world. It's just this is a self-contained story in particular, and it was very well done. There were some things that I wish we got more of. So this book is a story about dragons, and it follows these 4 different people and their relationships to not only the queen, but also just their different perspectives on these dragons. So we have an Eastern mindset on these dragons, which is that they revere them, they see them as gods, and they love them. And then you have a Western perspective on these dragons and these worms, and they see them as evil, devil, and just destroyers of all things. And just getting to see that parallel between those 2 different worlds is really, really incredible. And I'm not even explaining what this book is about because it's really difficult to do so because it is such a vast world. It was incredibly well done though, and I would absolutely recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Just so well done. We're going to talk about the Atlantis Grail series. I read all 3 books that are published and the first 20 chapters of the last book. And this is one of those series where I'm just like, I shouldn't like this because it's bad, but I love it. And it's book candy. And I don't know why I put it on this list, but I did because it made me happy. I was able to get through them quickly once I got into them because it took me a bit of time to get into the first book. But I really actually, surprisingly enough, enjoyed the series despite it being literal garbage. Basically, the premise is Earth is going to be hit by an asteroid very, very imminently. And so what they've done is they've kind of hosted this qualification process to allow anyone from the ages of 9 to 17, 18 to partake in this kind of competition in order to qualify to become a new citizen of this planet far away called Atlantis. And things kind of go from there. So the first book is really just kind of like training for qualification and doing qualification. The second book is them traveling to Atlantis, and then the third book, they're on Atlantis, and it is a little bit different than the others because there's a kind of Olympics, shall we call it, games thing that is happening. Then also like relationship dynamics have changed by that point and whatnot. And then the fourth book, I think, is just kind of like the big explosion of, oh my God, all of this stuff is going to happen, and then they're going to be fine. Like it's fine. But no, it's literally book candy, but nothing about it is good except for you get addicted and you're like, why am I here? So yeah, I was kind of really into it when I was reading it, and even now afterwards. And I have no regrets about reading it, and I'm really glad that I did. So here we are. Then the next book on this list is The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. Y'all, this was one of my all-time favorite books from this year. This is the conclusion to the Winter Night trilogy, the first book being The Bear and the Nightingale, and the second book being The Girl in the Tower. And I'm not going to go into much depth into it because spoilers, but basically what it is it's kind of taking the concepts from books 1 and 2, combining it into one thing, like the earthly and the spiritual, combining it into one thing, and then you have the culmination of everything that's been building in, like, happened in the last book, but then also like lots of stuff happens in the last book, and it was everything I wanted for a conclusion, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you haven't read that series yet, just definitely, this is the time of year to start it. If you live in a place where there's snow, wait until it snows and is covering and is like super cold outside, and then pick up like The Bear and the Nightingale, sit by a large window with a fire roaring, and seriously just read it. Like, that is how atmospheric it is. It's so perfect for winter. And I was lucky enough to read all 3 of them when there was snow on the ground. Well, except for part of Girl in the Tower, because I was on an island. But it was raining when I was reading it, so I was like, you know what, I'm counting it. But yeah, definitely give those a try if you haven't yet, because they're so incredibly well done. Then the next book I'm going to talk about is one that I actually haven't finished yet, but I am loving so much, and that is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Holy crap. This book is honestly incredible, and I know it's a really fairly well-known-ish book, but like seriously, more people need to read it. Don't be intimidated by its size because it is very fast reading in a way. It's one that you want to sit with and absorb, but at the same time it moves quickly, if that makes sense. And it's close to 1,000 pages, I think. It's insanely big. But basically what it's about is partially what it's about is an epic about building a medieval cathedral in this fictional town in England called Kingsbridge. But it's not the only thing that book is about. It's also about medieval life and just the medieval period in general, because it spans several years. I think it starts in 1123, or at least the prologue is 1123, and then we jump to 1135, and then I think it goes all the way up to 1180-ish, I think. I don't know. I don't even know. I'll put it up on the screen if I can find the actual end year this book ends on. But it is so incredibly atmospheric. It's incredibly immersive, and it's everything I could have expected this book to cover. And I will definitely be picking the second one up some point soon because it talks about the Black Plague, and you guys know how I feel about that. Like, give me that right now. Oh, it's so good, and I can't wait to read more from this world because I have a feeling it's just gonna be the best thing ever. And I mean, I expected to like it and love it. Like, you guys know that I've been talking about this, reading this book for a while, but it's really, really worth the hype, seriously. And then the final book that I want to talk to you guys about today, and my favorite book of the year, and one of my favorite books of all of the books, is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. You guys have heard me talk about this book at length multiple times on this channel, so I won't go into too much. And I mean, like, everyone has this on their favorite books of 2019, but also everyone's talking about this book in some fashion or another. But oh my god, this book is absolutely incredible, and it is my everything. You guys have heard me talk about, like, The Realm of the Elderlings, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, etc. on this channel repeatedly over and over and over again, and talk about how those are like my favorite books, like they are top tier favorite books. Well, Red, White, and Royal Blue has joined that group. I am very picky with romance. Like, I like romance, but I like it done in a certain way, and I need more than just the romance plot. I need something extra, and Red, White, and Royal Blue delivers. It delivers. Like, okay, the amount of research Casey did for this book, and a lot of people are like, oh, she must have, like, made this up and she portrayed us in a negative light. No, like, I can definitively tell you she didn't. She clearly did her research. I found article after article about, an interview after interview about her talking about her process of writing this book, and there was a lot of stuff that went into it. It's not just an off-the-cuff romance that was just kind of written to be fun and whatever. It was written for a specific reason with a specific thing in mind. And I have never felt more represented, understood, seen, etc. than I have in this book. Like, I talked about how Elise is very much like me. She is, in certain respects, in a lot of respects. I've talked about how I'm very Neville-like, and I am. But both of those characters do not compare to how much like Henry I am. I am so incredibly like Henry that it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I just love that book, and I've read it 3 times already. I will probably read it multiple times again next year. It's just a book I can read over and over again probably every month and be fine with. It's just such a good book. And if you guys also enjoyed it and are looking for more people to scream with and talk to about and throw headcanons out there with, please come talk to me. I want to talk to literally all the people about this book, but I just feel like there's no one to talk to about it in some way. I don't know. I know that's a lie, but I'm just... It's an everything thing for me. I love it so much. Those are all the 7 books that I, in particular, loved, like top tier loved this year. Let me know down below what your favorite book or books of 2019 were. I'd love to know. But other than that, you guys know the drill. I have all of my social media links down below in the description. I have my Twitter, which is @ASeaofTomes, which is the same as my handle here. And I also have a Goodreads, which is also linked down below, where you guys can go over there and follow me and track my progress, see what I'm reading, and see my general superficial thoughts on things before I come and scream at you about them over here. And I also have my Ships and Fandoms page linked down below for your viewing pleasure. And other than that, I'll catch you later in another video if you guys again soon. Bye!